I typically don't discuss like breaking news or I don't follow the news cycle terribly closely because what I want this channel to be is a place for critical thought and philosophy and discussions on religion and politics and not any of those things directly tied to what's emergent like on a day-to-day basis, but more like zooming out, looking at the direction that our society is going as a whole, where we've been, the historical side of things, all that. But this woman berating these other Muslim women and an HEB in Conroe, Texas, it speaks to me directly because I'm from Texas. I live in, well, not from Texas. I wasn't born here, but I've lived in Texas most of my life, and I deal with this kind of culture and these kind of people all the time. So this is my first reaction video, but I'm going to be reacting to that video that dropped.
Really not welcome in this state or this country.
You are wearing scrubs. You work with
it
people
doesn't
of
matter.
all culture.
What matters is that you worship a terrorist.
Okay, so there. Get the fuck out of here. You're not welcome in this country. This is the attitude that MAGA or people on the right have in general, and not just about Muslims, but about anyone that doesn't fit into their neat idea of what America should be. I hear the same things leveled at me, even though I was born and raised here in the United States, even though I'm a citizen and my family's been here for well over 100 years. I hear the same thing because I'm not right-leaning. All right, so this is just classic. This is just classic. Get the fuck out of here. You're not one of the people we want. This is classic tribalism and nothing less.
What matters is that you worship a terrorist who is a warlord, a pedophile, and Islam is a terrorist organization.
All right, so she says that you worship a warlord, and what she's referencing is the Prophet Muhammad within Islam, who was a warlord historically. The issue is that she doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Muslims don't worship Muhammad. They worship Allah. And they believe that Muhammad is his prophet, and so they revere him. But they don't worship him. Worship is reserved for God alone. And listen, I'm no fan of Islam. I'm not sitting here defending Islam. I think Islam, in its more fundamentalist forms, especially, is dangerous. Right? So I'm no fan of Islam. But if you're going to critique a religion, if you're going to critique a faith, at least have some clue what the fuck you're talking about. And then she goes on to say that Muhammad was a pedophile, right? You worship a warlord and he was a pedophile, okay? This is also historically true. Muhammad was a pedophile, especially by today's standards. There is an awful argument that Muslim apologists sometimes make that within this culture, it was normal for, and even today, child brides, this sort of thing still occurs. But they're arguing that within their culture, it was normal and that no one came at the Prophet Muhammad in his time. Like, I've heard this. No one came at the Prophet Muhammad in his time about his marriage. I believe her name was Aisha, and she was like 9 years old when they were wed, or maybe she was even younger, and then like he consummated the marriage around 9, I believe. That's just gross. That's disgusting. But the fact is that a lot of cultures engaged in this, not just those in the Near East. I mean, child brides have happened here in the United States. It's gross wherever it shows up. I do think this is like a solid critique of Islam, but I'm sorry, this is rich. It's just rich coming from someone who I have to assume is at least MAGA adjacent. And I would bet money voted for Donald Trump probably 3 times in a row. Like, this is rich coming from her after the Epstein files dropped. Like, you're going to have an issue with pedophiles now? Now, after we've seen what happened and what they talked about within the Epstein files, and Donald Trump being all over the place, and a lot of these right-leaning figures, and a lot of Democrats as well, being all over these files. Like, now that's an issue? Like, get the fuck out of here. I just can't take you seriously. And then to say that Islam is just a terrorist organization and not a religion is simply false. It is most definitely a religion. And are there terrorist factions? Are there fundamentalist terrorist factions? Like, absolutely. And I stand firmly against all of those factions. They're dangerous. Okay. But that would be like me taking the very worst example of Christianity and saying that that constitutes the totality of what Christianity is, and therefore Christianity is simply a terrorist organization because of the actions of some Christians. And I think the argument could better be made that here in the United States, that like Christianity is more dangerous, at least today within our culture, right here in the States. Christianity is more dangerous because we see it consolidating power with like this rise of Christian nationalism. So she's going to sit here and lob these insults, completely missing the tradition that she comes from and the inherent dangers that we today are facing in this country from her own tradition. And of course she misses it because it's familiar to her, because this is the way people operate.
Yeah,
Not a
because you're not
religion.
educated
Not a
about
religion. I'm very educated on this subject.
No, because you're obviously
You,
not.
you need to leave. You're not welcome here.
And so that's the way these conversations go. The two Muslim girls say, you're not very educated, and then, oh, I'm very educated. I'm very educated. People that typically have to proclaim their education level and tell you how educated they are usually aren't very educated. They're just not. If you have to say it, just like when someone's in charge and they have to go around reminding everyone that they're in charge. If you have knowledge, if you have training, if you have any of these things, if you are an educated person, you typically don't have to go around touting it. And of course, when they lob this back at her, the woman that is insulting them and telling them to get the fuck out of the country, when they say you're not a very educated person, she gets immediately to get the fuck out, because these people usually can't be reasoned with. There is no reasoning with them. It's, I'm going to proclaim what I believe, and if you object to it, just get the fuck out. My way or the highway. But like an entire cultural and political movement like that with this attitude. It's ridiculous.
This is not a Muslim country. This is a Christian country. And
Stop
you need to
looking at
leave.
her like that, please.
You need
Okay, so major issues here. This is not a Muslim country or a Muslim country. Correct. This is not a Muslim country. But then she goes on to say, this is a Christian country. Again, false. America is not a Christian nation. And this is one of the most common talking points with the right-wing Christian nationalist side of the political spectrum right now. They all parrot the same shit, but it's simply not true. This is not a Christian nation. It wasn't founded as a Christian nation. The founders did not set out to form a Christian theocracy. That is simply untrue, and it's not what this is. The founders were wide and varied. Many were Christians, but there were deists as well as just like not terribly adherent Christians. You know, Thomas Jefferson cut out all the miracles of the Bible and kept just the moral teachings of Jesus. Benjamin Franklin was notoriously skeptical of a lot of the religious claims. Thomas Paine was a deist, but he thought that religion was dangerous and wanted to keep it as separate as possible. So, like, to say that we were founded as a Christian nation, it is a talking point, but it's just simply untrue. And so, no, America is not a Muslim nation, obviously not, but neither are we a Christian nation. We are a secular nation, and we allow for freedom of religion. This is built within the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, a freedom from religion and a freedom from having religion forced upon anyone from any one group, be that a government or one religion to another. And the founders were intentional with this because they had observed within their recent European history the theocracies and all the bloodshed and violence that came from those theocracies in Europe, with the wars between Catholics and Protestants, and then the wrong types of Protestants. If you are Arminian versus Calvinist, and there's all these factions and all these theocracies and all this bloodshed. And there was religious persecution within England with some of the pilgrims, and they wanted religious freedom. Like, Were many people within America Christian? Yes. Was it the majority religion? Yes. But America was explicitly not founded as a Christian nation. Like, explicitly. And this is just parroted over and over again. It is a talking point, and it is sunk into the culture on the right, but it's bullshit.
You need to leave.
You're not welcome here.
We have citizenship
Why do you work
here.
in healthcare if you're like
You need
this?
to leave. You need to go back to your Islamic country where you came from. Okay?
They're asking her, why are you like this if you're in healthcare? Because she's in scrubs. I read somewhere that she's just a massage therapist or something like that. I don't know what she is, but it doesn't really matter. They said they have citizenship. They are, if that's true, they are citizens with the full rights. But even if they aren't citizens, the United States offers like a level of protection to all people. Everyone has the right to due process, and so it doesn't matter. Like, no one deserves to be berated in a grocery store for being Muslim. And I'm going to assume that it's probably because they're wearing some sort of head coverings or something like that. I don't know what exactly spurred on this conversation here. I'm not sure what like the uniting factor was. Some people are saying that they started it and started recording her. I mean, I can see that it's entirely possible that the woman in the scrubs started it because she had a problem with head cover. I don't know for sure what started it, but the bottom line is, get back to your Islamic country and get the fuck out of here. Like, no one should be treated like that while grocery shopping. Like, come on.
No.
Everybody's aware of why you're here.
No.
Okay, so don't think that we don't know, and don't think you're going to get away with it.
Everybody's aware why you're here. I think what she's hinting at, without coming out and saying it clearly, is a sort of myth. And this was a myth that I grew up with, as I was raised pretty Islamophobic within my fundamentalist upbringing. And it was this belief that Muslims were sneaking into countries to secretly make them Muslim. Now, have there been cultural shifts that were difficult when you have large influxes of immigrants? Like, that's just true historically, and that does happen, and that can be difficult. But there was this conspiracy-minded way of thinking that, like, en masse, all the Muslims across the world were conspiring and sneaking people into the country so that they could turn it Muslim, or instill Sharia law and make that the law of the land. And so it was like this conspiracy culture built around Muslim immigrants, and that they were all dangerous because they were all part of like this secret Muslim plan to make everywhere Sharia law and everything, Islamic. And this completely ignores the fact that there are multiple sects of Islam. This ignores the fact that there are progressive branches of Islam. This ignores all the nuance, and because that's what these movements have to do. These sort of political movements have to collapse nuance down into simple binaries of good and bad, us versus them. And that's what this woman's clearly doing here, and she's hinting at some conspiracy bullshit while doing it.
I'm pretty sure we're kind people, but you're not being kind, so you can get out of here. You're not welcome.
So no, she's not a kind person. And no, MAGA typically aren't kind people. And that's not that everyone with a MAGA is just simply unkind. But this right here is just a prime example of what, I'm not going to say I have to deal with, because like, I'm a white guy and most people probably assume I vote MAGA just based off the way I look. So I don't have to deal with harassment like this on a daily basis. But if I have a conversation with people, it absolutely devolves into this kind of get the fuck out, direction. And this is the culture of the right. And the fact that this woman, I believe the last time I looked, she got fired from her job once this video came out. And then now she has raised over $100,000 in supporters. And this is just like a prime example of the culture on the right. They support xenophobia. They support Islamophobia. All the phobias and all the bad things practically these people support, and they rally behind one another. And their message is get the fuck out unless you're like their version of Christian and white. That's kind of what it boils down to. Okay. And this happened right here in Texas. It's continuing to happen across the United States. These people are part of a cultural movement, a political and cultural movement. that is dangerous and is leading us on a very dangerous road that is paving the way for authoritarianism, that is paving the way for a host of horrors that I don't want to see unfold, but I am afraid is actively unfolding right now. And it's in the daily interactions of people like this berating women that happen to be Muslim and happen to have their head coverings on in the store. And once again, I'm not sitting here defending Islam or Muslims in general in any other capacity besides the simple point that I think people should be free to believe what they want to believe as long as they're not actively harming anyone else. I believe in freedom of religion. Okay, I'm not religious myself. I think religion is harmful. A big part of my channel is coming out against certain forms of Christianity, specifically like fundamentalist Christianity and this right-leaning Christianity we have in the States today. But I have just as many things to say about fundamentalist Islam, okay? So I'm not a defender of Islam here, whereas I'm talking crap about Christianity constantly, okay? I think the issue is fundamentalism and dogmatism, and it does come out a lot in these more conservative fundamentalist versions of the Abrahamic religions, and it's a problem. And it's people like this that represent this cultural shift that we are seeing right now. I'm so tired of it. I'm so tired of it. This is the Silent Republic.